All right, so let's talk about scaling. Scaling is something you guys are familiar with from when you were smaller and you had, let's say, you might have had Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars, right? Let's say this was a Matchbox car, okay? And I can't remember what the scale is. I want to say it's 1/32, which really truly means that the whole car, or 32 of these cars, is equal to one whole car. So if this was a Corvette and you took the Hot Wheels Corvette and you went down and you just did this 32 times, you would get to the length of a regular Corvette, and you could test that next to each other. Barbie dolls have a scale. I can't remember what it is, 1/8, I think, or 1/6 maybe. So anyways, that's that. The best example, I'm from Michigan, so I'll use Michigan as my example. Michigan shaped like a thumb, right? So on a map, they typically, on the bottom of a map, they give you something, and now we have Google Maps, so you guys may never have seen this before, but they give you a little thing on the bottom called scale, all right? When I was a kid, we had these huge maps, and we had to use them to figure out how to get places on our vacation, right? So where I'm from is about right here. And I have had my great-grandmother who lived right up about there, all right? So what you would have done back then, you would have said, what is this 100? That's 100 miles, okay? So they might say 1 inch. This whole thing could have been an inch, and it always seemed like it was about the length of your thumb, okay? So you could say, okay, so if I go from here to here, then I go from here to here, and then a tiny bit, maybe not even half, maybe that distance, from here to here is like 220 miles, okay? Would we always use this scale? No, we wouldn't, because if we were thinking about the entire United States, right, and we want to fit it on the same page, it wouldn't fit. So in that case, this distance right here might change. It might be 300 miles is equal to 1 inch, or 500 miles, or something else, okay? So that's the concept of scale. Let me go ahead and toss this aside. So now, we're going to look at taking a ruler, right? And I just drew another one of those blank rulers that we've done, just like this one. And once you have all these measurements, you've built yourself a lot of the information that you need, okay? So looking at it most simply, this says right here, 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot, okay? You gotta be able to understand that the quotation mark is an inch and the apostrophe is a foot. I'm just looking for something to write that down on as well. So your format, if you're gonna write down things in an architectural format, let's say something is 6 feet 2 5/8 long, okay? So if we say 6 feet 2 and 5, we can just write the fraction, okay? 6 feet 2 5/8. So the way you would write that, we know that that is 72 6 feet, plus 2 is 74. So we could just say 74 5/8. And that's what most carpenters do. They just give you all the inches total. But in architecture also, we'll do this. We'll say 6 feet. Okay, so an apostrophe is the foot symbol. And then we'll say 2, and we'll put a mark, like a hyphen, and 5/8 inches. The only reason we put the hyphen, we don't really need to, mine looks like a Z, is some computers, when you type them in, it'll make like an improper fraction. It'll like 2 times 8 divided by 5 or whatever, and it confuses the computer. So that's it. Okay, 1/4 inch scale. Let's talk about this. Really, really easy concept. So go back to my example of Michigan, okay? So in this case, we say every 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. Well, how many 1/4s of an inch are here, okay? So let's count this part 0 on the ruler, okay? So I go boom, 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 boom. Well, if I go to my cheater, I know that there's 1, 2, 3, and 4/4 an inch. But if I didn't know that, I could go right down my cheater and say, okay, there's 1, there's 1, there's 1. Yes, this says 1/2, but look here. It's the same as 2/4. It's the same as the second 1/4. So here's a 1/4. which means on this thing, it is 1 foot, that is 2 feet, that is 3 feet, and that is 4 feet. Okay? We've got that locked in. So now we can look at this and say every foot, and this is where people sometimes also get confused. They say, well, I understand that that's a foot in real life. No, okay. This is not a foot on a ruler. This 1/4 inch on a ruler is 1 foot or 12 inches, right? You got to remember that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Okay. So what does that mean? That means in this foot, we can break it down. Okay. So that means that this mark right here, halfway between, is half of 12 inches, which is 6. Okay, that means that this mark is half of 6, which is 3 inches. Okay, this means that this is 3 inches past it, so that is 9 inches. And then this is 12 inches, or 1 foot. Pretty straightforward, right? So now we know this is the second foot. We already confirmed that. Let's say we wanted to know what this is. Well, we already decided that every one of these marks symbolizes 3 more inches, and so on and so forth. So if I go anywhere on this ruler, I could say, okay, where am I at right here? Well, I know this is 5/8 of an inch on the ruler. Is that meaningful? Maybe, but I know that this is a foot, this is 2 feet, this is 3 feet, but I'm halfway back, which means that this point is 2 feet, 6 inches, okay? What's the last mark? Ask yourself. Give you 5 seconds to figure it out. 4, 3, 2, 1. The last mark, if this is 4 feet, it's 3 inches back, because we know every one of these 16th inch marks is 3 inches away from the next one. So in this case, that is what? 3 feet, 9 inches. Got it? 1/4 inch scale.